Welcome to Integrity Inspire, your daily dose of inspiration and motivation, featuring the bright and talented members of the Integrity Marketing Group family. Now, here's your host, Integrity co-founder and CEO, Bryan W. Adams.
Well, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's Inspire podcast. We're so excited for the opportunity to just continue to learn and just gain insights and wisdom from so many of our different partners here at Integrity. I can tell you, I've even had competitors call me about this and send me texts saying, wow, we love listening to the Inspire podcast. Thanks for making those available. I've learned so much from this. I know we've heard from agents, we've heard from agencies. I've heard from carrier executives about this podcast. I've even heard from partners' wives who have enjoyed being part of this podcast. In fact, maybe we should open it up to the wives at some point, or husbands or spouses, to learn from them and what their other side of the story is. I think that might be an interesting twist to this whole thing. Well, today I am so honored and so happy to be joined by a guest who played a big role in the history of Integrity Marketing Group. And in fact, he is the only guest that we've ever had that has requested his own walk-up music. And we kind of joked about this on a pre-call yesterday, and he said, I'd like some walk-up music whenever I'm coming on the stage. And so, Stephen Prince, I know this is a strange accommodation, but that was maybe not strange. Maybe we should do this for everybody. Do we have anything we could play for this guest?
You know we do, Bryan. Hailing from McDowell County, standing 5'10", straight out of Nebo, North Carolina, unoriginal, always with a smile on his face, Todd Fincher.
Knuckleheads out there, cold shooting some hoops. A car pulls up, who can it be? A fresh El Camino rolling Kilo G. He rolled down his window and he started to say, it's all about making that GTA. Cause the boys in the hood are always hard. You come talking that trash, we'll pull your car. Knowing nothing in life but to be legit.
Welcome, Todd Fincher. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, buddy. Nothing pumps me up in the morning like some gangster rap. Thanks, Stephen.
You had no idea. I think that was it was Eazy-E. I think if that was
easy. He took it way back.
That was Eazy-E, and you got to be careful with Eazy-E. And that was woo. That was fun. I had no idea what we were playing here. I don't know if you requested that or not, but knocked it out the park, man.
I just requested something that I and your boys would like, because I know they're into the rap these days. So that was all, Mr. Prince.
My boys would like that. Well, that was taking it way back, and today, man, we're taking it way back. In fact, Todd Fincher was the very first employee of Integrity Marketing Group. I'll never forget when we first started Integrity Marketing Group. The early days were not all that fun or easy for us, but we started really working hard, and then we got to a point where we needed to have somebody who could help go out on the road and get people selling this product, and so we were talking about it, and Todd Fincher, his name came up one moment with his uncle-in-law, Shep Cutler, who was one of the original founders of Integrity, and he said, I've got this incredible young guy. He's gotten into the insurance business. He is incredibly talented. We should get him going and working with you. And so Todd and I literally would run around the country together, or he would take the East Coast and I'd take the West Coast type of a deal. And we would run around the country and try to get people selling those products in the early day. And that's after starting his career as an agent and then working with us at Integrity at some point, listen, it was tough. Those early days were hard as can be. We were trying to get people convinced to sell final expense insurance before final expense was cool, and Medicare Advantage was just rolling out. So you had everybody really focusing on getting into the Medicare Advantage space. You had the President of the United States, George W. Bush, on TV almost every day saying you should enroll in Medicare Advantage, look at this new Medicare plan. And so those early days were incredibly tough. And at some point, Todd Fincher said, I'm going to go and start my own business. And he started Tidewater Management Group. And it's a full-service distributor of Medicare business, final expense, and other senior products. And under his watch, Tidewater has steadily grown into a business that has provided just the best service and frankly is one of the most highly respected agencies by agents and also clients alike that we've ever been part of. Todd and I have known each other, good Lord, almost 20 years now, and I got to tell you, I am very, very grateful for good friends that you go back with a long time and you've struggled with and you've gone through good times and bad. And it's even more exciting about what the future will bring. So, Todd, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the fun of also having welcome music. So thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you being here, and congratulations on all your success, my friend.
Thank you, Bryan. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and chat with you. You were taking me down memory road there just on the introduction. Crazy.
Man, listen, we went through a lot, didn't we? I mean, those early days, I remember you were in the hair business at one point, and back then I had hair, and so it's amazing how far we've both come, I guess, since that point. But man, when I tell people that you were the first people of integrity, they're usually surprised because of all the success that you've had and you've built with your team. And man, you got the team of. I mean, I'm scared to even start naming names because you got so many amazing people like Chad Wilkerson, Mike Newton. I mean, you just keep going down that John. I mean, you just keep going down that list of just rock stars that you guys have assembled and built at at Tidewater. Man, what do you remember about those? And this takes you back, man, because it's been a long time. But what do you remember about those early days at Integrity whenever we first got started, man?
Like you mentioned, we weren't an immediate success. Like any startup business, we struggled. I mean, if a guy sold a policy in the country, I knew about it, and I would be on the phone with him, telling him how grateful I was for his business. I mean, yeah. There was a lot going on in the marketplace, and like you said, Medicare Advantage was really taken off, and a lot of the more traditional final expense shops had really kind of taken to distributing Medicare Advantage and Medicare Part D. And nobody, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm heavily, or have always been heavily in that business myself, but it was really kind of hard to get the ear of folks to show them a new final expense product at that point in time. I remember, as a matter of fact, I remember going out to visit some of the folks that are Integrity partners today. I was thinking about that before the call. Tom Fleming, I went to Pittsburgh and called on him, and let's see, you and I and Bob Grannon, we went down to Austin and saw Tim McCoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we worked our butts off, and we could see then. I mean, we knew that the model would work and could work, and you use the term or the phrase all the time that rising tide would float all ships. But everyone was so busy. All of our partners were so busy in their own business, in dealing with what was happening in the Medicare space. like I said, it wasn't an immediate success. We had to really work to try and build something. And, another thing I was thinking about, Bryan, was when you and I were in our 20s and we got the privilege of getting to sit in meetings and conference calls with some of the icons in our industry. So, I mean, how lucky were we? How many folks in the start of their career, in the early days of their career, get the opportunity to listen to folks like Mike Wingate and Dan McNerney, Tim McCoy. I mean, just icons, Tom Sheath,
Tom Fleming.
Tom Fleming.
Yeah.
I mean, we were really blessed to be part of this early on, even though we struggled a bit to get going out of the gate. For us personally, it was very, very, it was a real blessing. It was, there were some fun times, and my good buddy Bob Brannon, who called me this morning, he and I spent a lot of time on the road together, just begging for final expense sales.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Bob Brannon was the head of all final expense business at Transamerica and Monumental Life. Monumental Life was a Transamerica company and became Transamerica what it is today, which was our first. If it weren't for Bob Brannon, I mean, listen, Bob Brannon. I'm going to give a Hamilton analogy here, but if anybody's a Broadway fan, but Bob Brannon was in the room where it happened. Like he was the one who pretty much told me, like, you're not going to get an exclusive on this product. You guys are too regionalized, and we came back with a plan. And in 2 short weeks, we had a whole business strategy of creating integrity marketing, and Bob was kind of part of that whole thing, even though he was the executive that was in charge of that. And then you and I we just traveled the world, or traveled the U.S. with Bob, trying to get people to sell products. And we got to get Bob on here one of these days and share his story about kind of those early days, because, man, he certainly took a risk on it. And then to prove that you never burn bridges in this business, Bob now is with us and helping oversee and coordinate all of our final expense and life business, which is just, man, listen, that's small world type stuff. Speaking of small, like if you remember, like, listen, I mean, you just brought up a lot of memories. I remember that time you and I went to see Tim McCoy. We got to get Tim on here too. I gotta get Tim scheduled on this call, but
okay, now you're going to get me in trouble. On my call now, Bob Brannon and Tim McCoy are going to be calling me.
Yeah, we're
Fincher. Damn it,
thanks
Fincher,
a lot.
How dare you?
Thanks a lot. Just don't tell them it's a choice if you say yes or no. We don't want anybody thinking that there's optionality here. But you remember that time we went to see Tim? I remember it was one of those deals. It was like, I mean, we were begging, borrowing cells at that point, and you were right, man. I remember we'd get a cell and we'd be like celebrating because it was those hard days. And I think this is great context for marketers out there or agents that are really dedicated and focused on a business that you're in, and you're working hard to try to get people selling products for you. And you just got to stay after it, because somebody accused us. I was literally in a meeting last year, and I'm talking to these big investment guys in New York, and they go, "Oh my God, you're an overnight success." And I started laughing. I go, No kidding. I'm an overnight success after 17 years. Like, this doesn't feel so much overnight to me at this point.
Yeah, but they weren't there. I mean, do you remember how nervous we were going in to see Tim McCoy? Oh man. So
do you remember? Let's focus on this, dude. Tim McCoy. Going in to see Tim McCoy was like, it was a massive opportunity, and a massive opportunity for us to have that meeting with Mike Ibarra and I mean just their entire team, right? And it was a huge opportunity for us to get there. Do you remember the backstory of that? I just gotten my pilot's license, and I decided to rent a plane.
Yeah.
I decided to rent a plane. I decided to rent a plane. I was flying from Dallas to Austin. And I said, "Hey Todd, fly to Dallas, fly in with me. This will be a lot more fun. We'll have, and I remember you saying, well, how many times have you flown to Austin? I said, well, I've never flown to Austin. It's going to be awesome. And you're like, no, I think I'll meet you in Austin. And I tell you what, that flight, there's a lot of things I don't ever forget, but this one I will never forget. So I fly out of Dallas to Austin in this little Cessna 172. And I rented, it was built in 1956. It was this old clunker of a plane. And I sucked at flying anyway. That's a whole nother story. But so it's one of the reasons I can't fly anymore. But anyway, so I was flying, and I get out of Dallas, and I'm just beelining it to Austin. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just flying. And all of a sudden, somebody comes on the radio and says, sir, you need to vector, blah, blah, blah. You need to go out this way. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what's the problem? They're like, there is a temporary flight restriction over this part of Texas, and if you cross over it, you will be scrambled with F-16 jets that will escort you to land. And I was like, so I respond, I go, why? And they said, because that's President George W. Bush's compound in Crawford, Texas, and you're about to fly right over and inside to scared the hell out of me. And then I'm landing in Austin, and I wasn't really prepared for night flying, and by that time it had gotten dark, and I'm landing right next to this parallel with this huge Southwest Airlines flight, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, look how small this little plane is. And then I started laughing because I'm like, I wonder what those people looking out at me think is like, why is that guy in that little tiny plane landing? And so I get there and I'm scared to death, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to fly back home. And I remember having a few drinks with you and Bob, just going, and you were like, that's why I told you I wasn't going to fly with you. I'm never going to fly with you. Oh,
Brian, God. I remember telling my wife, when we planned that trip, I was like, honey, this guy wants me to fly with him. I don't even want to ride in the car with him, let alone fly with him.
I'm not a good driver either. That's funny. I was driving one day and somebody goes, well, if you ever have a wreck, you're going to make the news, because they were like, you're not a very good driver. That's a whole nother story. There's a lot of, oh my God, there's a lot of stories that we can. We were young, man. We were young, and what we lacked in experience and any type of knowledge, man, we made up for with enthusiasm. You know, if we thought somebody would write some business for us in Podunk, Alaska, we would have hopped a flight. You know, it didn't matter. We wanted to make it happen, and I think we all could see, even in those early days, that this concept, this idea would work. It took some time to get the people in the right seat on the bus, and to get the right people in place to really make this partnership just explode and become the success that it is now. And listen,
we wouldn't have got. You know what? Honestly, you learn from your failures, right? And that's probably why Integrity's having so much success now. Is if there was a mistake to make, we made it, man. We made it in the early days and learned from it, man.
We're still making mistakes, and we still. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. And one thing I am confident in personally. Is we're just getting started. I mean, these are the early days. I loved in one of the videos, Chad Wilkerson in your office said in one of the videos, I think it was your video. No, it was in the employee ownership video. He said, the good old days are right now. And I believe that. I think at some point when 20 years from now, and you and I are talking and hanging out, we're going to be talking about, you remember those days that we went through the COVID-19 lockdown, and we had those daily conference calls, and oh my gosh, I think the good old days are.
Remember when I texted you and I guess 6 weeks ago now and said, Bryan, they're testing for coronavirus right downstairs.
In my office.
Can we go work from home?
In my office, yeah. Dude, that was
like
in the building. That was crazy. One of these days, we'll look back at this with interesting memories. That's for sure.
I think so.
Well, Todd, I want to say, listen, on behalf of Tom Sheath and Mike Wingate and all of the other partners here at Integrity, man, the role that you played to get us started, and getting us to where we were, or where we were at that time, and where we are today, we wouldn't be the same place without you, man. And it took. I think it took that youth and enthusiasm that you and I both had of just going, I don't know any different. Let's go try that, to get us off the ground. And so, man, on behalf of all of us here in Integrity, I want to thank you for that. And just tell you how, from deep down in the heart, how much we appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate that. I always appreciated the opportunity that was given to me way back then by you and Mike and Shep and Dan and Tom. It was a big opportunity, and it led to the things I learned in those meetings and in those rooms when we were brainstorming are the things that I tried to apply when I went out and tried to build my own agency.
Yeah. Well, after your time with us, you went out and built Tidewater, which is just an incredible business. I always love asking our guests how they got into the insurance business. I know your story is a little bit different than most. Would you mind sharing some of that?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty boring. I'm not that. My story's not that great. I was listening to Frank on Monday, and man, that's a story. I want to be that guy who went out and became the number one salesperson, and that just really wasn't me. I got into the business. My wife, her uncle, is a guy who a lot of the partners know and did business with, and that was Shep Cutler. And I'd like to just take a minute to God rest his soul, to reflect on Shep, because I think he made a big impression in so many of our lives. He was really a one of a kind guy. He was a special individual that was. He had this really unique way of seeing the world. He's one of the few people that I've ever known that was never, ever jealous of anyone else's success. He was always genuinely happy to see other people succeed. And as a matter of fact, I remember when Shep said, "Hey, I want you to come to Las Vegas and meet this guy, Bryan Adams." He said, "My partner, Bryan Adams." And that's when I met you for the first time at that meeting in Las Vegas. But Shep told me I'm from North Carolina. I was in the tobacco business. Everybody from North Carolina was in the tobacco business at one point in time. And Shep said, if you ever think about making a career change, I think you do great in the insurance business. And so I said, okay, well, why not? I got my license, and I called Uncle Shep and said, "Shep, I'm ready. What do I do?" He said, "Well, go sell. Here's a final expense application." And I said, "Well, who do I go sell to?" And he grabbed the phone book and he scrolled through it, and he said, "There she is. There's your lead." And, there's a lady whose name was like Ethel. Yeah, there she is. And he could almost pick out a senior by her name. And so I had my final expense app that I hardly understood, and I went out and I started making calls, knocking on doors. And I was doing everything that I'd been taught to do by Shep and other folks that had kind of mentored me as I was just getting started. And there's no other way to say it, Bryan. I just sucked at it. I was in personal production for, I guess, a little over a year, and it's a miracle we didn't starve to death. I tried as hard as I could, and I quickly learned that being a good final expense agent isn't so much about being the most or the smartest guy or the smoothest talker. It's about one thing, and that's about outworking the competition. It's about being a hard worker, and it's a tough way to make a living. It's a hard way to make a living, and I think that's why we got to remember our agents out there in the field. They need us. I remember not know. I mean, you're on your own most of the time. If you have a question, it's your upline, it's your FMO. They're your business partner. They're your support system. And everybody on the call, the marketers on the call, no, you're halftime agent support, and you're halftime. You're like therapist, man. You've got to listen to those agents, what they're going through out there, because it really is an emotional roller coaster. You hear so many no's, and as Mike Newton likes to say, you got to hear the right number of no's to get to your first yes. But anyway, I was pretty bad at it as far as the sales process goes. But I think, as we were talking about in our pre-call, Tidewater certainly was not built on the back of my overwhelming sales skills or my overwhelming personality. You know what? It was made successful by my team. And there is no doubt about that, Bryan. I was blessed in that I have some super, super talented and just unbelievable people that have joined my team. And that is how Tidewater grew. It really had very little to do with me. I just tried to stay out of their way and let them go out and be the superstars that they are. You mentioned some of the names earlier, but I could go through a lot of them. But I've been truly blessed to work with some of the greatest people out there. And I think that if there's a theme out there for today's call, it's certainly that it's all about your team.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, I think first of all, you understanding that going through that experience, I also sold in the field. And it's way harder than people think. And I think everybody who really wants to get really dedicated in this business and do what we're doing, you really should be out in the field at some point to really understand it. I mean, Tom Sheath's story about, I think it was Otto and going up and selling him and that whole process. I mean, Clay Leggett's story about knocking on doors and running around the back door if they didn't let him in, and saying, "Oh my God, thank God you answered because the lady that answered the front door was so mean." Like, that was hilarious. Listen to Lenny Anderson and his stories about putting somebody in the home to make phone calls. Like those early day sales stories. I mean, Mike White had some great stories about that. Those early day sales stories and experience helps you understand what an agent goes through, so that you can help provide better resources and services to them to make them even more successful, because you can empathize with them. But I do think it's all about the team. And man, listen, you've assembled a team of rock stars. I'm thinking about the room whenever I've come to see you in Raleigh and some of the people. And I remember one of the first times I ever came up there, and you had said, like, "Bryan, you got to meet my team because I'll put my team against anybody." And a lot of people say that, but the young, exciting, aggressive, committed, dedicated team that you've got there is just incredible. I mean, Chad Wilkerson, I think, could be one of the best leaders in the business. I mean, he is just unbelievable. You got, Kevin Smith is a rock star. That guy can do anything. That guy could do anything. You got Ronnie James, who honestly is the next Anthony Chapman. I mean, Ronnie is just unbelievable in his own right. You got Christy Bell. Oh my, dude, we could talk about Christy for a long time. John Elliott, man, we go back so far back to the Shep Cutler days, and John has just been one of those steady, constant people that has just been just amazing. You got Bobby, well, dude, I can't leave out Serena. Like, Serena Mullins, and she's unbelievable as well. Johnny Deal, you got Christy Jones, you got Mike Escobar. I'm just like, and I'm leaving people out, and I don't want to do that, but Mike Newton is one of the most genuine, heartfelt people. He was actually the first Inspire 100 winner that we've ever had, I think, that Mike always goes above and beyond. And man, I love the fact that you talk about your team. In fact, like your email distribution, you don't ever say. Yeah, I've never heard you say my employees, which I love about you, man, because that shows heart. And I've never once heard you say my employees done this. It's always team, and I think your email distribution even says that, right?
That's right. You know, the only time during our integration with Integrity that I ever had any pushback on any of the integration was that I had an email address that I used when I shared information with our crew, and I would just forward information or send an email out to team@Tidewater MG. And, you know, shortly after our integration, someone, who knows, it was not intentional, but it just happened. Someone changed that address from team to employees at Tidewater MG. And if you don't hear and understand the difference between those two, I mean, it is a difference. And I always felt like I was really blessed to work with the people that I get to work with every day. Like I said, Chad, I mean, my best friend in the world. And I think he was meant to come work at Tidewater. While I said I wasn't really good at selling insurance, I think one of the skills that maybe I do have is that I can see, I do know and understand the things that I'm not good at, and I can see those attributes in other people. And I'm the most unorganized guy in the world, and Chad's on the polar opposite of that, and I really needed that. And Mike Newton, that guy. Bryan, I can't get a meeting with Mike Newton now, and that is not a joke. Mike Newton is on the phone with an agent from sun up until sundown. I have to schedule meetings with him a week out just to get a 5-minute meeting with the guy. He's busy helping agents. And you mentioned them all. I mean, I just got a great crew, and they're the reason that we were successful.
Well, I love that about you, and I love the fact that the concept of team. That's one of the reasons whenever we partnered with Harvest, and one of the things when they came to us and they said, we want to partner with you, and I'd been really convicted on this whole, I believe partner, and words matter. It's one of the reasons I never want people to ever say IMG. We talk about integrity. That's the name of our company, is Integrity. And I want to put that out there because, one, I want to be held to that, and I want people to recognize the power of that word, integrity. And I love the fact that you talk about about team. And that's one of the reasons when we partnered together that I said the only way I would consider it is if you made every employee a partner. And we're still in the process of finalizing that for every employee. But I'm proud to say our plan is within the next week or two, we'll have every single employee. We've got new partnerships always that are adding on that we're continually getting their shares out to. But, man, I love the fact that we're all in this together. And I think that that's going to be our key to our long-term success going forward. And it's no fun. Listen, I've had a lot of downtimes. I've had a lot of success. It's no fun doing either one of those by yourself. It's always better to struggle with others and having people lift you up and help out like those early days you and I had. But it's also a hell of a lot more fun whenever you're excited and you're prospering and you're also doing that together. And that's one of the things I don't care if I'm ever remembered for anything, honestly. It's not what my identity is tied up in, other than the fact that we gave this company away to all of our partners and our employees. And I think that's one of the most important things, because without them, we would never be anywhere. And so I love the heart behind the team atmosphere that you guys have. Well, Todd, thank you so much, my man, for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us this whole time, man. We've been together through the thick and the thin, and it's an honor to be your partner. It's an honor to call you friend, my man. And please give Jennifer and your kids my best, man. I love you very much, and hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Tomorrow we've got another great guest, Mike Killamette from Family First Life, who is just another incredible guy that will be joining us here on the podcast, and we're going to have a lot of fun on that call as well. So excited to keep having these. These are is making the world smaller, one call at a time, which I just absolutely love. So, Todd, you're the best, my friend. We'll talk to you guys soon.